Hi, this is going to be a super quick video, hopefully, of how to take a Unity project like this and then put it onto the cloud over here. So this presupposes that you already have a GitHub account and you've already downloaded GitHub desktop application. Right, so why would we want to put this onto the cloud? It's so we can keep a version forever, and then maybe we might have some backup capabilities as well. So this is our GitHub dashboard. This is what we would get at the very home page of our GitHub account. And then what we can do is press new to create a new repository. We're not going to have a template. I'm going to choose myself as the owner for this one, and then we can just type any kind of name over here. So I guess what I can do is I can maybe just put in a GitHub Unity project, something simple like that. I'm going to keep it private over here, and this is the most important step. We need to add the correct git ignore profile. So I'm just going to go ahead and then put Unity in there. So the reason for this is because Unity, if we have a look at its folder structure like this, has this folder called library, and this folder called library has a whole bunch of files that we don't really need to keep track of in the GitHub repository. So this is like caches and lots of different things that gets generated at runtime, and we don't really need to upload it into the repository. So this is what this git ignore does. It ignores those system type files that we don't really need. Super important step, have the git ignore file. I'm going to leave the license here because it's going to be a private repository anyway. And then let's just go ahead and say create. So now what this has done is it's created a spot in your account in the cloud, but we don't actually have a copy of that locally in the computer. So to get a copy of that in the computer or a connection is we're going to make a clone. So how to do that? I click on the code button here, and we're not going to say download. That's not going to do very much. We're going to go open with GitHub desktop. So depending on the browser that you'll get a question like this. I'll just say yes. And you can see that this will open the GitHub desktop app, and then it's basically pre-populated these fields, and then it's telling me that I want to put this into my local position, a local location in my computer. So this is my actual GitHub location that I use for production, but since this is a demonstration, what I'll do is I'll put it into a demonstrated location. I'll just so easy to find here. And let's select this location for this. So this is just to show you that this is just a folder that gets tracked. So I'm just going to say clone over here. That's going to clone to that location, and then we can see that there are no changes because this is a fresh repository that we just cloned. Now I know we just put it onto the location, like that specific location, but what if we forget where that was? So there's a couple of things we can do. We can say show in Explorer if you're in Windows, because I'm in Windows right now. In Mac, it would be more something like reveal in Finder. So you can just go ahead and click this, and then it'll open up that location where we had it. I guess another thing you could do instead of this little panel over here is you could like right click onto the name of the current repo that you have, and then again say show in Explorer. Again, in Mac, this would be show in Finder. So yes, now this is the GitHub tracked or the git tracked folder, and what we can do is we can make some modifications to it. So if we just made a new text file here, for example, new text file, and then we go back to GitHub desktop, we can see that it's detected a new file. And if we were to edit this file, hello, and then save that, just move that out of the way, and then go back to GitHub desktop, we can see that it's detected that change as well. So this is basically how we're able to make snapshots of our project. So how do we make snapshots? We do these things called commits. Commit is just basically I use the word snapshot, let's use that again, of the state of your project. And I'll just make some nonsense here. So there's like new text file, blah, 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 blah. In real practice, this should be more meaningful than what I've put in. That was just for demonstration purposes. And the reason why we would want to make that meaningful is because all the commits that you would have in here would have those notes. And it's really handy just to see what you've actually done for your future self, because you're going to forget. Also, if you're in a collaborative project, your teammates will also be able to see some notes of what you've done, so they don't necessarily have to keep talking to you about your updates. But if we go back to the browser where we have our cloud repository, nothing has been updated yet because this is still a local copy. So you know that this is still due to be uploaded because you'll get this notification. This commit has not been pushed to the remote repository. So if you want it to be saved on the cloud, you need to make sure that you push it. So let's just go ahead and push it. And then that's what we have. So if we reload this, we can see that we now have 2 commits. There's the new text file over here. And then we can see the same history that we had locally. So if we take advantage of this property, what we can actually do is we can just go to our Unity folder and then take all of this and then put this into our GitHub folder. Well, I guess this is what we call the Git repository. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go ahead and close Unity because Unity doesn't like being moved while it's open. It doesn't like you moving your projects while it's open, but that's precisely what we're going to do now, moving the project. So I'm going to highlight all of the files, and then I'm going to ignore the library folder. So I basically just unhighlighted the library folder, and I'm going to cut. And then I'm going to go ahead and paste this inside the new folder. It looks like there's already a git ignore file from the previous project, so I'm just going to say skip this file. And then that's it. If we go back to GitHub desktop, we can see that the changes, it's like 300 plus changes. And basically these are all the changes that happened just by me moving those files across to the new folder. So well, let's just go ahead and commit that, and let's say something meaningful again. Moved Unity project, and then yay, something like that. This is going to take a while to commit because that's almost 1,000 files. But if we included the library files, this would be more like 22,000 files. So we're very fortunate that we didn't include the library folder. All right. So again, we can see that this has been committed locally, but this icon means that it hasn't been pushed to the cloud yet. So let's go ahead and push it to the cloud. And then once that's finished, we can see that it now has new files from the Unity project. So what does that mean? So that basically means that inside our Unity hub, the old location is no longer valid. So if we just click that, it's not valid because it doesn't exist. So what we do is we'll just remove that from the project list and then add the new location, which is this one, a GitHub Unity project. And then that's what we're going to open. From now on, if we were to keep working from this Unity project, it will basically get tracked in here. So let me just demonstrate this in action. So let's go load a project and then make some edits to this scene. So let's just like move this ramp over here, move the player character over here. Maybe we can change the material for this one. Let's just go ahead and look for the, oh, it's doing some lighting stuff. Let's just go to graphics, like let's look for the button default material, and then maybe kind of just move that around here a little bit, and then go ahead and save. So if we go back to GitHub desktop, a whole bunch of changes happened to this particular scene here, and there was an update for this button default. So then what we can do is some simple updates, and then woohoo, commit that to main, and then again we need to remember to push it to the cloud if we want to keep that update, and then share it to our teammates or keep it saved forever, not just local on my machine. And then we can see that now there are 4 commits and it keeps those commit notes. And that's basically it. If we basically just edit our scenes, do our work here in Unity, once we're done, push it to the cloud, well, commit and then push it to the cloud. That's your workflow. And that's it. This is how to put your Unity project onto GitHub and work with GitHub with Unity.